A warm welcome to Monday's Instagram Live. It's Goodwin Boxing's twice weekly show. We've got 4 guests on today, and I hope that for those of you that watched last night and tonight's government broadcast, it's a little bit clearer. Just to let you know that apparently live sports can be considered from June, although gyms can't be opened before sometime in July, so I don't know how that's going to work, but that's up to the promoters and the Sky Sports and everybody else. But to me, I'm just not sure how they're going to do it. But I wish them all the best in their endeavours. I hope it's done safely. It will be good to see boxing back on TV, but it's very important that it is done safely. Now, tonight's show, we've got 4 guests, and I'll go from the back upwards. 7:30, we've got Dangerous Mo Gharib. Very exciting super featherweight, lightweight prospect. Had a really good amateur career. We'll talk about his amateur career and how that moved forward to his professional career so far. 7:20, A-star Aydin Martin. He was on the verge, he was on an English title eliminator, scheduled to fight Sean Robinson. That was scuppered by the virus. We'll be talking to Adrian, finding out what he's doing and what he wants out of the sport when it all comes back. 7:10, it's always good to see a young heavyweight prospect, and we've got a very, very good one in Harry Armstrong, who has had an unbelievably difficult start to his career, not helped by the virus, but it just typifies what he has gone through. But that man has gone through hell, and we'll talk about that when we speak to Harry. And we're starting off with a man that is not a boxer, he's not a trainer, he's not a coach. He's a photographer. You've seen him for years around the boxing arena in London and many other places, Phil Sharkey. And we're going to be talking to Phil about how he got into boxing and everything else. So we're going to start off with Phil. I'm going to try and track him down. Without my glasses, I can't see clearly where everybody is. So let's try and track Phil down. See if we can find Phil. Here he is. I know he's a new man to Instagram. And then we'll have a chat with Phil, see what he's up to.
Hello.
Phil,
Hi,
how are
Steve.
you? How are you coping with your first Instagram?
It is. You've taken my Instagram cherry, Steve, so you can be very proud.
So how are you coping in the lockdown, Phil?
Well, you can see I've got a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
I've been sitting in the garden, and also I've been today I went out and about on my scooter photographing giraffes in London Zoo, empty shop,
okay.
Selfridges food hall open. So I've been trying to get a few in the papers. I've got a giraffe in the Guardian anyway.
So I mean, would you literally go out now and try and take pictures and sell them on? Is that literally seriously what you're doing at the moment?
So I only do it once a week or twice a week, and I just photograph kind of, boarded up pubs. And boarded up pubs, boarded up cinema, and I put them out through an agency through Rex Shutterstock, who I put my boxing photos out through, and and the media might pick one up, and that'll be £2.50 in the bank if it's online.
Is that all it is? Is that all it is?
Petrol, Steve.
Oh my God! So what do you? I mean, how long have you been photography boxing?
Well, I'll tell you the whole story, Steve.
Yeah.
Where it all began. My father was a professional boxer. In 1945, he had his first fight. He was only 17. I think he was just 18, and he had 49 fights I've traced anyway. So he was a featherweight from the East End, and while he was boxing, he was also taking photos. And when his boxing career finished, he was a photographer on Trafalgar Square, because in those days, of course, this was in the 1950 till 53, and he was on the square taking photos of all the tourists. They were known as smudgers. So he'd photograph them, take the name and address. Oh yeah, we'll post it on. And anyway, it seems there was so much trouble because the 4 quarters of Trafalgar Square each had a gang operating. And of course, if someone walked through one bit and then decided to have a photograph taken by somebody else, there'd be a bit of a punch up. So the police eventually closed them all down. and made them apply for a license. Of course, none of them got the license. It went to some kind of RAF chappies. And anyway, he eventually found a little premises in Oxford Street and opened a portrait studio. And from there, he went on, and I started working there when I was 16 or even younger. It was like, child labour, Steve. It was either go up the chimney or go to the studio. So, and I'd worked there full time since I was 16, and we were based opposite Selfridges. And, I was very lucky. It was my father started a very successful business. So that's how I got into it. And of course, my father was a boxer. He knew everyone because when he was boxing, he was on the booths with Mickey Duff, who became the top boxing promoter in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So he was on the booths with Mickey Duff. And of course, I knew lots of boxing faces and figures. But in those days, I was much too big. When I was up until about 15, 20 years ago, I was much too busy with the studio because I worked there. We were open 7:30 till 6 every day. I worked Saturdays as well. And a young family, so I couldn't really make it to ringside. But I used to do a few photos and get them in the old boxing yearbooks, the old Barry Hugman's yearbooks.
Oh, okay.
Behind me there. So I used to do a lot for Barry as well. Boxers would come up to the studio and I'd do proper portraits of them. And of course, as the kids got older and the wife got fed up with me, I could get out to the boxing a bit more. And really, I'm a bit of an obsessive. When I get into something, I'm slightly obsessive, of course. And you probably noticed, Steve, at your shows, I'm there from the first fight till the last.
Yeah.
And every boxer deserves respect. And that's why I stay there. Because my dad, he had 50 fights, but, you didn't get a sniff of a southern area in those days. So I respect every boxer. I didn't box myself, but I was a bit too much of a waster, I'm afraid, Steve. A bit too much.
So do you do it for the passion? Because I presume there's not massive money in it in the boxing.
But I say it's an expensive hobby, actually. Yeah. What I do, of course, I'll try and sell a set of photos to the boxer. I'll try and sell a set of them, and of course I put them online. I've got an agency, so the big fights, like Daniel Dubois and Joshua and George Groves and people like that, the newspapers will take. But I'm afraid the small hall shows, now the local press, Arch, and they used to do all the Islington Gazette and the Hackney Gazette, they won't say, they don't want to pay now. And I'm afraid you get people that turn up at the boxing and just want to see their name in the paper and will send freebies to the press agencies, which is rather harmful to, professional photographers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm afraid.
So in your boxing, tell us some of the biggest highlights, the best events you've covered and photographed. What would you say they are?
Well, apart from Goodwin shows, of course. And I've been to them all, mate. I've been to Plymouth. I've been as you know. I'll go anywhere for a Goodwin show. But I was very fortunate. George Groves very kindly texted me one day and said, the first Froch fight, and said, would you like to come to Manchester and be my photographer and cover the whole thing? And that was for the first Froch fight. And I mean, it was unbelievable because, I'm used to scuffling around with a few 4-3s and, sitting in the dressing room with the away boxers and having a bit of a laugh. And of course, this was serious. And it was fantastic. And George is a lovely man, a really top gentleman. And he took me out to Saudi with him. And that was a great experience, to go out to Saudi. And I went to Wembley. I was at the Wembley fight, and I didn't quite know because George never told me exactly what he wanted or what I was supposed to do. So I found myself on the double-decker bus with him driving into Wembley Stadium, not knowing what the hell I was doing, just trying not to kind of fall over in front of Sky Live cameras for the commentators to say, oh, someone's on the pitch, they think it's all over. He is all over.
Oh God! So you've done some big ones as well, then. Are there any...
that was great. The Teddy George retired, really.
Yeah.
But I've been very lucky. I covered Anthony Joshua and lots of the top fights. So it's very lucky.
Do you have any? You have no problems then with accreditations?
Yes, of course. The thing is, Steve, of course, there's only 7 spots ringside at a big fight, and sometimes only 6. Because when this guy do pay-per-view, of course, there's only 6 photographers, and those will go to the big guys. So it'll be Action Images, Getty, Press Association, Kevin Quigley from the Daily Mail, Dickie Pelham from the Sun, and that's it. You kind of run out of space then. Right. So it's very different. It's very tight for space, and of course with this COVID-19, blimey, might be even tighter for maybe we'll all have to be one person on the balcony. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's all behind closed doors at first, isn't it? So it'll be very, very strange at first. So,
yeah. So I don't know what will happen or what accreditations will be given out. So I don't
think anybody knows. And what about your general business? Is your business literally dead in the water while this is going on?
Yes. Well, actually, but the studio my father started, we went from 1953, and we never closed for one day. And in June last year, I decided to pack it in. Basically, at Christmas time, Steve, I was packed with families, portraits, family portraits. And of course, there's nothing now. And you can even, you can apply for your passport with your phone. You can upload a photo. So I knew the end was coming. And luckily, I was able to sell the lease back to the landlord and pack it in. So I'm a man of leisure these days. But
well, as long as you've earned enough during your working life, there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Well, Steve, I was very lucky. My father was a very wise. He was from the East End. He didn't really have an education. He was left school at 14, and but he was a very wise man, and he got me to invest wisely. I never splashed out my money on flash cars, or even my scooter's not very flash.
Well, Phil, I look forward to seeing you back at the boxing arenas. Hopefully not too far off, but it could well be. We know that. But you take care of yourself and look after yourself.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks very much for having me. And you've been really interesting, all your Instagram and your Facebook ones. And keep up the work. And love to the family. Hope they're all well.
And the same to you. Take care, Phil. I'll see you soon.
Sorry if I've gone on too much.
That's Phil Sharkey, one of the best photographers out there. And wait for Phil to log off, and then we'll then move on to Harry Armstrong, young professional heavyweight. He's only had the one fight. He should have probably had 4 by now. The circumstances have gone against him, but he's a very talented young man. And let's see where Harry is and have a chat with Harry. Let's see if we can find Harry. Here we go. Harry the Hatchet. Wait to see. Harry, how are you?
Hey Steve, I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Where are you living? London or down in
London? I've stayed up in London.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
What, is your partner? So is your partner with you? Is she?
My partner's with me. My sister lives with me as well, but she's back in Devon at the moment. So yeah, I've got all my training gear up here. I've got a garden made up as a gym, so I'm just taking over up here.
Yeah, I mean, my God, if anybody has had worse luck in the start of their career, it has to be you. And I remember saying to you, and thank God you never listened to me, I remember saying to you, you probably don't want to do the 2 shows, the York Hall and the Plymouth. Why don't you just wait for the Plymouth? Do you imagine if you just waited for the Plymouth show? Oh my God. Oh,
yeah, it's very, very close call. It's very lucky to get the first one in time.
It was a bit like that, but I mean, how are you coping with the lockdown? Are you're still ticking over then, are you?
Yeah, I'm coping fine. I still train twice a day, sort of maintaining fitness and just working on weak areas that I know I need to improve on, really. So it's not, it's difficult, and obviously it sucks not being able to fight, but I'll be ready as soon as we get the first card on the go.
Yeah, the situation is, really by now, if you hadn't have had all the queries from the board, and then we had the COVID, you'd probably been forced 5 fights in now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And now we've got to start again from 1, but yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, the board have issued more guidance again today. I mean, I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get back this year. And but it just is what it is. You then have to go full steam ahead as soon as we're ready to go. But hopefully we can get this virus sorted out and then we'll be back. But I mean, for people that don't know you, Harry, tell us about your amateur career and about becoming a pro and everything like that.
Amateurs, I started off in Devon in Torquay at Apollo Boxing Club. I boxed there for 10 years. For amateurs, I won junior national title, finalist a couple of times in the juniors. And then I actually moved to London twice to professional. First time, shoulder injury stopped me. And the second time, so the beginning of last year, moved up to train with Don Charles full time. And yeah, it took me a year pretty much to the day to get my license, with sort of an eye condition and then a high blood pressure. But yeah, I finally got my license and we got going obviously in March, and now we've been paused again.
Did you enjoyed your debut though, didn't you?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The supporters that come up were amazing. They made more noise than I thought it was possible. I had an amazing amount of people coming up to follow me. It was absolutely brilliant. I loved every second of it.
I mean, you're very mobile for a heavyweight as well. Mobile with very quick hands, aren't you? So that's what.
Yeah, and not the traditional slugger.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's the big edge. That's the big edge at the moment. The movers in the heavyweight are, if you at the end of the day, have a significant advantage, especially if you can keep in shape. I mean, Ruiz is a bit more of he's a mover, and he was okay until he obviously he get too much. But, yeah. I mean, obviously Don Charles is a top class trainer, so you've got the best training setup you could wish to have. And what do you want out of your boxing career? What's your aspirations?
World champion.
Sorry?
World titles.
Really, yeah. So you really got aspirations of getting the whole way.
All the way to the top. Yeah.
Well, the good thing for you is, as we always say, if you get there, you'll be a very, very, very rich man, because the heavyweights where the money is.
That's just right category to be in.
It's better than being a flyweight. You don't earn a lot of money being a world champion as a flyweight. So as it goes. So I mean, as far as everything else is concerned, so you're settled down in London now, don't you? You've made that big commitment to move, haven't you?
Yeah, we went out. Me, my partner, and my sister will live together. My partner and my sister run a business up here together now. They opened the month before they had to close because of the virus. But yeah, I'm fully settled up here. I live up here, train up here.
What business has she opened?
Beauty shop. It's actually next to my boxing gym now.
Oh God, yeah, I know that, because Olivia runs a beauty salon, but I think they're going to be some of the last to get let back out.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's going to be difficult, but oh God, so you've got that. So in terms of sparring, who do you spar with in preparation?
Throughout my amateur and professional career, pretty much everyone. I've boxed Joe Joyce in the amateurs, and I've sparred him quite a bit recently in the pros. I sparred Chisora in the past, Tyson Fury, Hughie Fury, pretty much anyone who's currently up there at the moment I've sparred.
So with your knowledge, who wins, Dubois or Joyce?
Joyce, I think. He's got too much experience. He's been he was an amateur for such a long time, stayed on in the Olympic cycle for another 4 years, hundreds of fights. He's a better mover than Dubois. They can both punch, and I know Joyce can take a hell of a punch and a hell of a beating as well. So I think Joyce will be, as the second half of the fight goes on, I think it'll be too much for Dubois.
Usyk or Chisora?
Chisora. I think he's... Yeah. I just don't think Usyk's... It depends how he spent this time out of boxing. If he's spent it properly building into a heavyweight, then it could be a much tastier fight. But I just think Derbyshire is too experienced at heavyweights. He knows how to take big punches, knows how to deal with the weight, knows how to make it incredibly difficult for Usyk. I know he's a brilliant mover. I don't know, he's got fast hands, but I don't think he's had long enough at heavyweight to get used to the extra weight, the extra movement, and everything like that, really.
And one more, Fury against AJ.
Oh, I think Fury.
Yeah.
I just think he's too complicated. I think he's just got too many tricks. I think it'll be a lot closer than the second fight with Wilder was. I think it will go in 12 rounds. I don't think Fury will be able to get Joshua out of there. But yeah, I think he'll just do what he did in the first Wilder fight and just sit back and outmaneuver him, outpoint him, and beat him on points, I think.
I mean, obviously, one day we want to be talking about you in this light, with all these big fights. That's where we want to be. Rather than you talk about it, you want to be involved in it. But it's just so frustrating for you. But you know, it's going to be a case of just keeping in there and waiting for things to develop. I mean, it's only going to take a vaccine to come out, and there is a good chance that they've got one. So, you know, you never know. You just never know, do you? You never know. A treatment or a vaccine, and we're back in the game again. It's as simple as that.
Fingers crossed. We'll get out there as soon as we can.
Yeah, no. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Harry. And people know who you are, and we will catch up soon. And you look after yourself. And the good news is you haven't split up from the girlfriend. You've been there a long time together.
I know. We lasted.
You still like each other. That's the most important thing. So, Harry, thanks a lot for joining us. Very much appreciated.
Cheers,
Take
mate.
care. And there's a heavyweight star of the future, Harry Armstrong, who moved up to London, has sacrificed and come to London to work with Don Charles full time. And I really hope, if ever there's one man that deserves to make a really big success of his career at heavyweight, it is Harry. So moving from Harry, we're going to move to a young man who's 12 fights in, Aydin Martin, who was on the verge of a big fight before we had to take a break. So let's see how Aydin is. Aydin, how you doing?
Yo, yo, yo. I'm good. How you doing? Is it
How are you, my friend? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Just bored of this lockdown, but getting through it. Getting fat.
Same for everybody. I mean, I don't know what all this stuff means that's going on. It's all a bit confusing for most people. Nobody's sure how much they can go out. It's all very thing. But I mean, what for you and your PTing? There's still no comeback yet, is there?
No, sadly not. No, we've had to, like, the gym's been closed down, obviously, because of the government guidelines and that. But it's just, none of it really makes sense to me, how one business can open but another business can't. And the social distancing measures, they're all a bit of guff. I'm not going to go into it too much, but
the strangest thing is, you can go with you could go down to Cork. We could drive 200 miles to Cornwall, sit on the beach, and next door could be 7 members of our family, and we can do that, but we can't go around the corner and sit in their garden. It's mad. The whole thing's mad. But
it's just
and the
like,
other thing is now
I don't think the government have been particularly good at relaying any information or giving us accurate statistics as to what's going on. So it's it's one of them ones, isn't it?
It's very difficult, and but you know, I think the Irish thing was the funniest thing, where you can do live boxing from the end of July behind closed doors, but the gyms aren't opening till August. I mean, how on earth you can do that madness?
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
But I still think the same thing over here. I know Eddie's looking to try it, and Frank are trying to do July shows, but there's no way gyms can open before July.
Please, Eddie or Frank, whichever one's got a show going on, your middleweights or your light middleweights, boom, put me in there with them. I'll fight any one of them. I really don't care now. I've got such itchy knuckles right now.
You just need the preparation. I mean, there are going to be opportunities because they're not going to be able to bring foreign opponents in, so they're going to be looking for decent fights on paper, you know. So
I'm game. I just want to fight, man. I want to go and steal someone's belt, really. But yeah.
But again, we'll have to see how things pan out. I mean, they're going to be looking for opponents or for people to fight, because unless they're going to match their own fighters together, which they may choose not to do. There could well be opportunities, but we're just going to have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Again, I don't. If you're going to take a big fight, the only thing is if a fighter is going to take a big fight, you've got to have proper preparation and proper training.
Yeah,
you can't step from the back. Can't step from the back garden 2 weeks with your trainer and jump in a ring. You can't be doing that.
No. Well, camp is sort of starting for me because the weight cut has to begin at some point because the belly's growing. I'm getting that Buddha belly going on.
So how fat are you? What's your weight at the moment?
I'm probably about 80 kilos at the minute.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I went up to 82.
Right.
Got back down to 78, and I've creeped back up again, but it's coming back off.
But it's hard, isn't it, at a time like this? Life is just a bit everything's sort of left in limbo land, isn't it? So it's hard for you as a sportsman to keep your normal condition levels, isn't it?
It's more just sticking to a routine of eating healthily because I'm still training, but I get bored, so I'll just I'll have a bowl of cereal, I'll have a little biscuit here. I'll have a bar of chocolate, and then it goes on, and next thing you know, you've eaten 4,500 calories, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting fat.
Yeah. I mean, because you was due to have a really big fight with Sean Robinson for an English eliminator, wasn't you? Before this whole thing was shelved, and that must have been frustrating because you trained right up to the fight date, didn't you?
I know, and I did a big weight cut for that one as well. You know, I was ready. And I needed that fight. I hadn't boxed in September, so I feel sorry for whoever I get put in the ring with when we're allowed to box again, because I've been sitting on my hands for a while now, and I'm just itching to get back out there. I suppose it's the same for everyone, but when you're buzzing around a little studio flat with ADHD, you need something to do.
I mean, how are you coping with that, being, you know, living like this? Is it something you've had to sort of be very wary of and careful of, or has it been difficult, or have you found it okay?
Yeah, it's difficult. It is really difficult. I hate it. It's like imprisonment. But to be fair, I half have and half haven't been sticking to the rules. You know, I've got a couple of friends that I go and see, and I'll still got I won't go out for 1 hour. I might go out for 3 or something. I'll keep my social distance from other people because you never know who they're going to be in contact with. But when it comes to, like, I've been seeing a few friends and stuff like that, because you just need to for your own mental health.
I was going to say, because you know, I'll tell you one thing I never understood about this, right? I don't disagree with what you've done, because for me, you have to look after your mental health. But they're asking somebody who really doesn't, like yourself, should not be cooped up like this, and they're letting 18 million people climb off planes for 10 weeks with no checks, walking through the city of London, and it's mad. It doesn't make any sense.
That's what I'm saying. They're happy looking after those that are coming through for work, working for the biggest companies in the UK and stuff. That's fine. They'll let all of them through, keep making the millions. But everyone else who's got a small business or self-employed, they're the ones that are suffering. It's not really fair on everyone, but it's just been a piss poor government response.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Again, some people have benefited a lot. It just depends if you qualify for what they're giving, and some, it's just pot luck. Some do, some don't, isn't it? It's very it's just hit and miss, you know.
Sadly,
very difficult. So apart from everything else, what do you want out of boxing now? You, like Aydin Martin, where do you think you can achieve? What do you think? What do you want? I know you want 50-50 fights. I accept that. But where do you think you can end up?
I know I can win a Southern Area title. I think I can win in English. I'm pretty sure I've seen the level at English standard, and I know I've got that in me. And British, I think that with the right backing, I think I can get it. But it all comes down to being allowed to train properly for it. You know, if I can get the right sponsorship involved, and I can have the right money to step away from doing as much work, I can then put all of my focus into boxing and train full time. You allow me to do that, I think I can go and win a British, and after that, then we'll see what happens afterwards. So It's
I mean, I think at British level, you need to be able to train full time for a fight at that level. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, most people do. I mean, Frank Buglioni, when he was fighting at British level, he was doing it full time, and you do need to be able to do that at that level.
Yeah.
You do.
I'm almost. Time. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with the team of coaches we have at the gym, when I'm deep in camp, now I know that there's a team of us that can cover for each other, so I can sort of pull back a little bit and focus on training like I was doing for the fight with Sean.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I mean, I was in the Peacocks every day, Monday to Friday. I was making such a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's going to be exciting. Whatever you do going forward, you're going to be in some exciting fights, aren't you? That's for sure. You know, you are one of those fighters that could easily step up to one of these big fights, you know, because I think this could be behind closed doors to the end of the year. So, yeah. And if it is, then there's going to be more opportunities, because if they can't import foreign boxers, some boxers are going to get the opportunities of a lifetime and be able to break through. And let's hope it's you.
Yeah.
No?
It's got to perform. It gets put in your hands then, doesn't it? You can perform. I'm staying fit. I'm staying strong. You know, I might put on a bit of weight, but I'm training every day. So, you know, just give me a bit of note. Like, I mean, nothing's going to be happening for 4 weeks at least, as in planning wise. And then you're probably going to look at another 4 to 8 weeks after that before the next show's on there. So I know I've got plenty of time. So I'm just getting myself fit, ready, and when the phone rings, I'm there, basically. Yeah,
sounds good. Well, Adrian, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
No worries.
As always, got a good story to talk about. Thanks a lot, and you take care of yourself. Look after yourself.
You too, mate. Take care.
Take care. And that was Aydin Martin, a man who's on the verge of big fights, big title shots, to another man who is on the way up, had a really successful amateur career. And he's got a massive amount of talent, and he's definitely a champion in the waiting. That's Mo Gharib. So we're going to try and find Mo, who's had 7 pro fights so far. Let's see if we can catch him. And for Mo to join us. He's trained by Mo. How you doing?
How are you, Steve? You right?
Not bad. Where are you? In the park?
In the park.
How are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I do some light training before break fast.
How are you?
Ramadan, yeah, Ramadan.
Yeah. Hey, so, how long have you got left on Ramadan now?
Like 12 days.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Do you find it tough? I know.
No, it's easy. It's easy. Just with the lockdown, it's kind of depressing, but we're all going through it.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, your career, you were probably either near a title shot or 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it must have been particularly frustrating to get the break on when you're sort of on the verge of challenging.
Yeah, because I wanted to challenge whoever won that English title. I wanted to challenge whoever won it. Yeah. After I had 1 more fight or 2 more fights, whatever. And then, beat whoever had it. Because whoever had it, I would have beat them 1,000,000%. Yeah.
So tell us about your amateur career, Mo. You fought a lot of the current pros in your amateur career, didn't you?
Yeah. I beat a couple. I had like 92 fights. Boxed for England, London. I boxed in 8 different countries. I had 4 different amateur clubs. But Finchley was where I had the most. Finchley, I think I had 57 fights there. And I was training alongside Andy Joshua and that. So I was at Finchley. At Dole Youth, I had 21. And I was training alongside James DeGale and George Groves.
Yeah.
So I've been around world champion. So
who have you beaten of the current crop of pros out there? Who did you beat in the amateurs?
I don't even know. I know one. I think that box, that Danny Carl guy. I think he's the Southern Area champion. I'll beat him up again if he wants it. But I don't want the Southern Area, man. I want the English. That's what I'm saying. So I want to go straight up. So like 1 or 2 more fights. I can't even remember. You know, I've had so many fights. I can't even remember who else have I boxed.
I think I remember your resume when you turned over, and I looked through the list, and there were some really good names on there.
I beat Yusuf Kamari. I beat that Dennis Wahomey.
Did you beat Dennis as well?
I beat him. I beat him and Yusuf in the same week. So I beat him, Yusuf, and then I beat Dennis.
So as a pro, I mean, to me, you demonstrated a lot of balls where you had a reversal, didn't you? And you didn't, whatever, no matter normally you don't go straight back into a rematch, but you insisted on it, and you were brilliant in the rematch, wasn't you?
Thank you. It was a big risk, you know, because where do I go if I lose from there? I wouldn't know what to do. So I
been very difficult, but I mean, you put in like an unbelievable performance. It was just class, wasn't it? And what did you learn from that loss?
Learn to go back to boxing, how I box, use my amateur experience, and not try and look for the knockout, just outbox them. That's what I'm good at. There's no need to look for knockouts.
And I mean, because obviously you used to do a lot of the entertaining sort of stuff, but maybe that got in the way a bit. In that fight.
That's where it was. Now I'm more serious. I do it here and there, but I'm more down to work, trying to hurt the person and look good at doing it. That's my main aim now.
And tell us about your relationship with your trainer, Daily Perales.
Yeah, me and him are good. I think me and him gel well together because we've got similar styles. So I listen to what he says now and it works because he can see things.
Coach.
Yeah, he can see things that others can't. So he's very good at what he does. Yeah.
So where are you? So you living? Who are you living at home with through the lockdown?
Just my mum and my little brothers and sisters.
Yeah. And are they all okay? Everybody's all safe.
Everyone's fine. I just want to get back in the gym training and then get a fight date and then feel like myself again. Because right now I don't think anyone feels like a boxer right now.
No, that's difficult. Is it mentally difficult?
Yeah, kind of, because I'm used to waking up, training, and then going to the gym, but I can't do that at the moment. So it is kind of challenging, but we're all going through it together, which makes it easier. It's not just one of us. No.
So in terms of your boxing career, what's your ultimate goal? What's a realistic ultimate goal for you?
I want to go to the world level. That's my because as an amateur, I was fighting world level fighters, so why not? I boxed that Pat McCormack in the amateurs, and it was a close fight. And he went on to the Olympics and the win worlds and the Europeans as an amateur. So to be up with them levels, them kind of opponents there, just shows that I can compete. Obviously, when you go pro, you got to start again in it, and you got to learn everything different. Yeah. And I learned a lot from that loss that I had. So now I'm more confident because now I know if I get dropped, I get it back up. And now I know to keep my chin down and just outbox these guys, and that's why I feel more confident, more relaxed. When I'm in the changing room, I don't even feel like I'm going into a fight. I feel like I'm going into my house. Like, that's how. Well,
I think you're definitely one of the guys now that people that sort of below the radar, but you're a champion that's people. Maybe it's a loss, I don't know, but you're not talked about like I thought you would have been at this stage because you. I mean, I think you appreciate that. I mean, you're one of the most talented young boxers out there. But I think that once you start challenging for titles, I think people are going to realise how good you are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's how I was as an amateur. As an amateur, I was below the radar, and then I just started beating all these good kids, and I'm thinking, where did he come from? Where did he come from?
And I think it's going to happen again.
That's what I'm doing. So I come out of nowhere, I start beating everyone. I'm thinking, where did he come from? I never heard of this guy. But a lot of these pros know me. 100%, all these professional boxers, they know me. They definitely know me because a lot of them were from the amateurs, and a lot of them just know me because I talk a lot as well. So a lot they do know me. I just need to get to that step to be knocking on their door and see if they're going to answer it.
So for people that don't know you, how old are you, Mo?
27 now.
Yeah. So you're coming into your peak over the next few years, aren't you? So you've got to be cracking on with titles. Realistically, within 12 months, you need to be winning titles. That's for sure. Yeah,
exactly. I'm getting old now, man. I'm getting old.
I wouldn't say getting old, but you're coming towards you. But you've got three real top quality years where you've got to be heading for the big titles. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I want one or two more fights and straight into the title.
No, I think that's the spot. And then you're 6-1. You've had 7, so get to 9 fights or so. There's no reason that you can't start jumping in at that point.
The loss, I'm not really bothered about the loss because all these top fighters around the world have got losses now. If you look at every single, like Golovkin, Canelo, they've got all these fighters now. Everyone's got losses, so it's not really a big...
Anthony Crolla lost to Yusuf Alamidi, who was lost 100 fights.
Yeah,
it stopped him winning a world title, though, did it? You know?
Exactly. So it's better to learn early and lose to journeyman early and learn early than lose later on.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Mo, thanks for joining us. People are seeing you, and for people that don't know you and are watching this on Boxing Social afterwards, this is a man you should be looking out for. He's going to be coming to win titles over the next 12 months, and people need to be remember the name Mo Gharib, because for sure you're going to be winning titles and winning lots of stuff. So
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Take
a lot
care.
for joining us, Mo. And you look after
Yeah,
yourself.
take care. Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.